Welcome back to the channel. I'm Tina, also known as Little T, and I'm just sitting here after church on Sunday with Lucy, if she'll ever look at the camera. Lucy, you look at the camera? Of course she puts her head down. And today what we're going to do is make a chocolate cake using sweet potato as part of our sweetener. You may have seen last week's video where I talked about detoxing from sugar and how sugar had crept back into my life. Well, I still want to eat something that has the flavor of sweetness without using so much processed sugar. When our son Zach was growing up, he was allergic to eggs and dairy, so we used this recipe from one of the cookbooks I'd gotten as a wedding present. It was called America Cooks, and it was a crazy chocolate cake. And what was crazy about it was it was egg and dairy free, and it uses vinegar and baking soda to help the cake rise. So we're going to experiment today by replacing some of the sugar and some of the oil in the recipe with the sweet potato and see how it turns out. And who knows, this could be a recipe you might want to use for the holidays. Fall is just right around the corner. There's going to be a lot of sweet potatoes in the grocery store, and you may want to take this to your holiday gathering and surprise people with something that's not a pie for dessert. And they don't need to know that it doesn't have as much sugar in it as normal. They just want to know that it tastes delicious. So right now our sweet potatoes are baking, and as soon as those are cooled off, we will start putting our cake together. Let's get to cooking. You can see the knife goes through the potatoes really easily. So it means they're done. Now they just need to cool. Here we have our 3 baked sweet potatoes, and I've unwrapped one. I've had time to take a nap, so they had time to cool off. So that's a really good thing. And what we're gonna do is just take a knife and ooh, look how pretty that is. I'm gonna find me a little container here. So I'm just gonna take this fork and scoop out that yummy baked sweet potato. Slipping right out. That's nice. That made it easy. I'm just gonna mash it. And our recipe is gonna call for 3/4 of a cup. This little glass bowl I got from Pampered Chef, and it is a 1 cup measure. So this sweet potato, you can see, is almost exactly 3/4 a cup. So we're gonna use that in our recipe. It's all nice and soft and mashed up. So there's our sweet potato. I've got a big mixing bowl here, and we will get started. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups of flour. So I've got my King Arthur flour here. Use my hand sifter and just sift it into the bowl. We have 1/2 cup. The recipe normally calls for 1 cup of sugar. We're going to cut that in half and do 1/2 cup of sugar. Here I have 1/4 cup. I'm going to do that twice. I'm going to take out 1 tablespoon of that. So it's going to be 1/2 cup minus a tablespoon. And you'll see why here in just a second. We need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. There's our 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so that's 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then to make our chocolate taste, we're going to use cocoa powder. 1/3 cup of cocoa powder. I'm going to heap it just a little bit, maybe so it'll be extra chocolatey. So I'm going to put that also in my sifter and sift that together. It usually has a few lumps in it, you can see, and I'm just going to use my knuckles and get the rest of that out. So now I'm all chocolatey. And that's all of our dry ingredients. So we have all our dry ingredients in the mixing bowl, and I'm just going to blend them together. And I'm also, what I should have done before I started this is turn on the oven to bake at 350. So I'm going to mix this together and then let our oven start preheating before we do the wet ingredients. So I've put a smaller bowl here. We're going to do our wet ingredients in this bowl. First, what we're going to do is sour our milk. I have some unsweetened almond milk. Shake it really well. The recipe calls for 3/4 cup of plant-based milk. I'm using almond. You can use whatever plant-based milk you like. And it would be okay if it was vanilla flavored for this recipe. That would work okay. We're going to sour the milk with some vinegar. I have some apple cider vinegar here. 1 tablespoon of that. You could use just white vinegar, it doesn't matter. Or you could use lemon juice. With our 3/4 cup plant-based milk, and I'm going to expertly stir it with the handle of the tablespoon. So we're going to set that to the side and let it sour. Meanwhile, we're going to mix together the rest of our wet ingredients. We're going to take our 3/4 cup of sweet potato. So we have 3/4 cup of sweet potato. And remember the tablespoon of white sugar we took out? So we had a 1/2 cup minus 1 tablespoon. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of oil. I normally use just a regular canola oil. All I have right now is olive oil, so we're just going to go with that. 2 tablespoons of oil. If you didn't want to add the oil, you could just add more sweet potato or an applesauce, banana, something like that. I'm going to mix this all together. Probably still wait for our milk to sour. We'll get these ingredients mixed together. And I'm going to put this big bowl back in here. One thing I forgot to add, and this is an optional ingredient, but I'm going to add a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. You could also do cinnamon, but I think that will add some depth to the chocolatey taste. It's going to be a teaspoon. My teaspoon's kind of wet, so I'm just going to estimate in the palm of my hand. A teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, or like I said, you could do cinnamon, or you could just leave it out. And it's been a few minutes, so I think our milk will be soured. So we're going to pour this into the liquid ingredients. So we have our sweet potato, our oil, our maple syrup, our vanilla, and then the soured milk. That's all stirred together. We have our dry ingredients here. Let's add that in. Just make a little bit of a splash there. And let's stir that together. And since I'm modifying the recipe I used for my regular crazy chocolate cake, I can see already that it doesn't have enough moisture. So I'm going to add a little bit more plant-based milk. I'm going to add another 1/4 cup. So that would be 1 cup of plant-based milk soured with the vinegar. And let's stir that in and see what our texture is like. Oh, and our oven is going to be ready on time. I still have some dry bits in the bottom. I'm trying to get all the dry bits moistened. Still has a little bit of movement to it. To me, it's a little bit stiff for a cake mix, so I'm gonna add 2 more tablespoons of milk. One, 2. Now we have our loaf pan. I'm just gonna spray it with some non-stick cooking spray. We're gonna pour this in. If you wanted it extra chocolatey, you could add some chocolate chips to the mix, and that would make it a little more chocolatey. Got a little bit of chocolate on me. All right, it is ready to go in the oven. We've got it set for 350 and we're gonna go for 35 minutes to start off with. I have it set for 40 minutes on the recipe, but I wanna check it at 35 just because every oven is a little bit different and this is my first time to make this recipe. So, in the oven it goes. I'm gonna put it on the middle rack. And then set our timer. Got my toothpicks here. Let's test and see if the cake is done. It went for 35 minutes. It's still really moist on the inside. We're gonna go for 7 more minutes. Our timer's gone off for the second time, and we're gonna test it with a toothpick. Aha, came out clean. Very nice. Looks nice and moist. You can see a little bit of orange tint coming from the sweet potato. It's very moist. It's baked all the way through. That was 42 minutes at 350. I'm gonna need to test a bite of it. Let's go ahead and try a bite of this sweet potato chocolate loaf cake. Here we go. It's very moist. It's not too sweet. And it's quite chocolatey. I think I would bake it with some chocolate chips inside of it next time. And I think adding a little bit of the spice was a good choice. So, go ahead and try this recipe. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. And we'll keep coming up with some great recipes using less sugar, more whole ingredients like the sweet potato, get our vitamins, fiber, and get a taste of something nice and baked and perfect for fall. This would pair perfectly with a cup of coffee or even a dollop of whipped cream or ice cream. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed putting this recipe of sweet potato chocolate cake together, and you may even choose to use it for one of your holiday gatherings coming up this fall. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you on the next one. Have a great week.